Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday, December 21st, and you have tuned into the NFT Morning Show. We have a jam-packed, action-packed show today. It is going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a problem for anybody that's fading this show. Today, we're going to discuss Solana's new all-time high and whether or not we should be seriously concerned about Ethereum as a blockchain. We're going to discuss the latest on Dog Whiff Hat and the Grape Coin launch. And then later in the show, we're going to be joined by Mark Yusko, the founder, CEO, and chief investment CIO, I should say, of Morgan Creek Capital to talk all things macro and crypto in 2024. Mark's managing, or his firm is managing $2 billion in assets. So it's going to be a lot of fun to hear the way that he's thinking about the market. Wanted to shout out today's BoDoggo of the day, Dave Toronto. So big shout out to Dave Toronto. After not buying an NFT for a while, he picked up 3 BoDoggos on Tuesday, and he made a BoDoggo his profile picture. Give him a follow. It's at Dave Toronto. He's got an absolutely badass red coat, like red, fur coat and fire fur BoDoggo. It's, a hot doggo. It's pretty dope stuff. He's also got a sick samurai BoDoggo with a crown and a lucky dog BoDoggo with the cooked eyes.
Sorry, but tell me about Dave. I want to know about Dave. I don't give a shit about his BoDoggos. What's his deal?
Dave's just a good guy, man. If you followed him, you'd know. So make sure you give him a follow. He's shouting out Bitcoin as a flight to quality in his bio.
Okay, so we had a little bit of bag bias there.
Nick, it is funny. As I was going through that intro, my body was anticipating you to interrupt, and it took a while for you to interrupt. And I think going away from the show, being away from the show and not having that happen and then coming back, that's something I probably wouldn't notice. I'm just used to it on a day-to-day basis. So that is interesting for my body to kind of have that expectation of being interrupted during the introduction of the show. Go ahead.
It sounds like a trauma to you, the way that you're describing it, which is something that you should talk about with your therapist.
I feel like that response is directly fastball down the middle in line. I think my body's like, yep, that's exactly the follow-up that I would expect. You're pretty predictable, man. I'll say you're pretty predictable. Real quick, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give a quick shout out to our partners at Unsellable NFT. So Unsellable is a platform that pays you 1 penny for NFTs that you are unable to sell on other marketplaces because of no outstanding offers or liquidity. Now, listen, ladies and gentlemen, don't act like you don't literally need this service. Like, let's be real. You literally need this. There's a 100% probability. Like, look, we have other partners on the show where it's a product that's maybe for one person, but not for another person, right? That obviously not every product is going to be for everybody. This is literally a product for every single person that buys NFTs, because there's a 100% probability that you have an NFT that you don't want, that no one will ever buy off of you ever. It's impossible for you to sell it. And it's just easier for you to go through Unsellable than manually track it and write it down to 0 with your accountant and blah, blah, blah. Just use Unsellable. If you have an Outlaw, the project that was supposed to be the Western Azuki, what a joke that was. That's worth 0. There's 0 offers on it. You can sell it to unsellable NFTs for a penny. It'll mark as a loss on your 2023 tax bill, and you can write off gains that you've had this year, whether it's from trading crypto, NFTs, or even stocks. So if you're interested in tax loss harvesting, I know you've heard this phrase before, and saving money on your taxes, which you want to do, go to the nifty.com/unsellable. The nifty.com/unsellable to learn more. Make sure you do it in the next 10 days before December 31st so that it counts towards this year's tax bill. Come on, don't mess it up. Look, we got a lot to cover today because we're being joined by Mark. So let's just throw to Signal for the weather report. Signal, please take it away.
Yep. Welcome, folks. It is the shortest day of the year. That is Thursday, December the 21st. Market volume coming in at 18 million, Blur at almost 14, OpenSea at 3.5, Solana back up to 9.5. If we're looking at the market leaders, the action pack has been on Mataria Genesis. That's up 60% to 1.1 ETH floor. Block Games Dice is also up to 0.62, while Mutants and Azuki are also up to 5%. If we look at the top 4 stories over the past 24 hours, well, number one, we witnessed another dominating day by Solana as it pumped to $87 Meanwhile, Bitcoin also saw a 3% gain, while Ethereum is lagging, just lagging so badly in a relay race where the pen has been dropped. Not good. Up only 1% as concerns on Twitter are growing over its lack of price action. We've also had another mainstream article written by Bloomberg titled "Crypto Gets Crazy Again with Dog-Inspired Tokens and Bitcoin Eyeing $45,000." We love these headlines from Bloomberg. OSF is tweeting that these headlines are very important as they act for exit liquidity as TradFi FOMO comes in. Second story of the day, over on Proof, Kevin Rose addressed the acquisition speculation, saying that the rumors came from a high-level conversation that never went anywhere and that nothing has changed. However, concerns continue to rise over on Threads. Remember Threads that he posted about taking a year-long break from Twitter in 2024 and relaunching his Kevin Rose show, his new podcast and new newsletter, which will be unrelated to NFTs and crypto. Moonbirds are down 24% in the last 7 days to 1.5 ETH. We have another profitable day, though, for those Solana SAGA phone holders, people who ordered them, quote unquote me. We are waiting for them to come because more money is being dropped as the bust of the year as the Bust of the Year award was turned into an NFT and given to the phone holders for free. The phone NFT has recorded over 2 million in volume. It actually reached a high of 15 SOL before pulling back to 5 SOL this morning. And lastly, over on Polygon, we have two new all-time highs. The first is Pluto Misfits. That reached an all-time high of 0.42, a 10x from its mint price less than 6 months ago. And the second is Barcana's Mars Enigma Vault, as their 7/7 supply collection reached an all-time high of 1.75 ETH after the Web3 gaming company announced a 10 million funding round, showing a surge in excitement for Polygon going into next year. That is all for the weather report. It is back to you folks in the studio.
A fantastic weather report as usual, Signal. Shout out to our friends at Polygon, Layer 2 on Ethereum. Quickly, ladies and gentlemen, we got some updates from the Nifty Daily Digest. This is posted to X every morning and pinned up top. It's emailed to anyone that subscribes at thenifty.com, so go there and subscribe to it. We did that Karate Combat token airdrop to everybody that was subscribed that had BoDoggos and Nifty Portal NFTs ahead of their event last week. We'd love to do more stuff like that in the future, so make sure that you're subscribed to the newsletter so you can get access to stuff like that. Grapecoin it opened trading at $400 million market cap. Wow. That's pretty wild, but it is Animoca brand. So, yeah, shout out to everybody that got in on Grapecoin. Very cool. Metaria pumped 70% to 1.15 ETH, a new all-time high for the collection. So seeing continued pumps on NFTs. Bitcoin punks also reach an all-time high. Is this number right, Clemente? 0.09 BTC? I thought it was higher than that.
No, they were 0.006 or 0.06. Yeah, ran. They absolutely ran. Carson actually sold one of his ape punks, I think, for like 1 Bitcoin.
Yeah, Ryan Carson sold an ape Bitcoin punk for 1.234 BTC. So RC having the last laugh. Magic Eden minted a Solana version of Bitmaps, okay? And so 240K supply. There were some minting issues. Easy, what's the story here?
Yeah, so no one really knows what it is. Like, that's kind of the thing. No one can explain what a SOL map is. No one can explain what a Bitmap is. But there's 218,000 of them, and they were 0.09 to mint and are selling for 0.6. So a win's a win. Like, that's a clean 7x any day of the week. Could have been buying them on secondary for basically mint price. Yeah, they ran. Gigacent, which was great. You saw, obviously, the Bust of the Year award also run yesterday. Mints in general right now are starting to heat up, and that's been kind of the thesis, was that Solana mints will start to gain traction. And now we're seeing it. And I think that's going to continue, especially with, I mean, Solana pushing $90 is absolutely electric. Like, there's never a bad day when Sol's gig ascending. And then on top of this, we're supposed to get another stimulus with Jupiter in January, with which that token right now is trading OTC at 77 cents in early markets, which is insane because your boy's got like 120,000 of them coming. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Wait, you can check how much you have coming?
Yeah, there's like checkers that tell you and what tiers you fall into. I'm in like the second highest tier on 6 wallets, which is like 20,000 or something like that per wallet. So I'm excited about that. I mean, even if this trades at 50 cents, that's a nice mid 5-figure payday.
And ladies and gentlemen, this is jupe.ag, right? JUP.ag.
Yeah, jupe.ag. It's like a Uniswap, but on Solana. So it's a place to swap tokens. It's obviously with meme coins running right now. They're generating a ton of fees. And if you watched Uniswap's launch during the ETH DeFi summer, that was like a huge stimulus for people that were active in the Ethereum community.
Very, very clean platform for swaps. I've used it many times. And swapping on Solana, there's no fees, and it's really fast. So it's really, really good. I'm just throwing it out there. Nick, looked like there was something you wanted to add.
We're just all really happy for Easy. We're all like, we're really happy for you, dude. Really excited about that. Like, you
had 2 years to just be following me, man. I know these hamburger profits are now turning into apartment gains.
Bunny knows exactly that that's a bunch of bullshit, dude. Like there's no like you weren't out here screaming from the mountaintop saying you got to get involved with Jupiter so you can get an airdrop.
Well, Nick, you ready for this? If you just use the chain, you get involved with Jupiter. If you literally just used Solana and swapped to anything at any point over the last 2 years, that's where the snapshots happened.
He was swapping a dog whiff hat, so he's all over it. What did you use to swap to dog whiff?
Nick's up on that too. Nick's up nicely on that right now.
Can we just say how attractive Easy's becoming as Solana nears $100?
Oh, I'm gonna look beautiful. I'm gonna start modeling.
You're gonna look
when
beautiful, man. When it hits 150, everyone's gonna be like,
be on a runway.
You're gonna look like a pudgy penguin. Everyone's gonna be like, you are so good looking, man. Why didn't we think you were good art? That's what's gonna happen to Easy over the next 12 months.
A new all-time high. They're going to be saying he's the next Fabio. Next story, Phantom Wallet announced support for Bitcoin. So shout out to our partners at Phantom. Phantom, if you haven't used it, if you're still using another wallet, I really recommend that you use Phantom, especially Phantom Mobile. But the browser-based one is really good too. It just makes things easier. It also live updates your NFTs in wallet. I feel like, so last bull run, you didn't really have an NFT in wallet kind of functionality if you were an NFT trader, and you had to use the marketplace to make moves of NFTs. As the kind of game evolves, obviously you want to be able to make NFT transactions in wallet. It probably feels like a small feature, but it just shows like the quality of Phantom as a wallet. Obviously, they have the swap functionality now too. There's a lot of really good stuff going on there. I onboarded friends to BoDoggos, like normie friends that saw the success of BoDoggos, wanted to get involved. And when I sent them the link to just download Phantom Mobile, they immediately were like, oh, okay, so like user interface for this crypto NFT stuff has come a long way, huh? And I was like, yeah, it has. So shout out to Phantom Wallet, getting in the mix with Bitcoin. Love to see it. Love to see it. It's Bitcoin, baby. Not going anywhere. Last story, and it's a Bitcoin ordinal story. Hyped collection Node Monkeys is minting today at 4:20 p.m. Eastern via Dutch auction. Starting auction price is 0.21 Bitcoins. Trevor had public beef with this company or with this organization. Easy, what's the story here?
So originally it was supposed to be a free mint, and now they've changed it to a Dutch auction, which obviously has a lot of people like upset about this. It was supposed to be totally free, and that shift led to a lot of people to be like, what are you guys doing? Like, why? And still some decent hype on it. Some early Bitcoin people are excited about it. They're saying they're the first 10K on-chain collection, which based on inscription numbers, we'll have to wait and see. But that's one that a lot of people are anxiously watching and looking for. So I think it does well. But I had openly said I would mint and flip it, and their team was not happy with me. Not happy.
They're trying to basically raise like tens of millions of dollars if you do the math on this. I understand it's a Dutch auction starting at 0.21, but it's like, yeah, I don't know, man. Any mint of 10,000 supply that's over 0.1 Bitcoin is just getting into like an outrageous amount of money. We will have to see if that's how things are going to go down on ordinals. That's going to be wild. Anyway, those are your stories from the Nifty Daily Digest, ladies and gentlemen. Subscribe at thenifty.com. It's also posted to X platform, but you want to be subscribed so you have access to the email list. Nick, it looked like you wanted to chime in with something.
Well, outside of this project being a bunch of bullshit, I think that there's at least like, it kind of makes sense that you have to make all of your money up front with the ordinals because there's no royalties on ordinals. Correct. That is the upside of Solana. The upside, well, and that's also like really interesting that as well about the ordinal side though, is that what are the expectations of a company when there's no ongoing revenue coming from the NFT? Instead, it's just pure play, like collectible That's all that it is, that and all it will ever be, which is kind of interesting. Like there's something
digital artifact.
Yeah, like there's something interesting to say about that. But like, and does that mean that the Ordinal communities has no expectations of a project after they buy it?
Rare Satoshis.
Rare sats is a very important part of the equation, Nick.
Yeah, but that's not rare sats is not something originated by an NFT collection.
What do you mean?
Like they didn't create rare sats. Rare sats existed before them. Like it's not. So what I'm saying is, it's like you go and create a product, even if you minted on rare sats. Okay, cool. That's a little like marketing gimmick that you can include for your NFT project. But I'm saying, what is the expectation of a project? Because like if you go buy an ETH product, well, ETH used to have royalties, and you see all the people talking shit about Moonbirds right now. Like Kevin is probably just like, I don't need to deal with this. Like that's probably what's like going through his mind. And I think part of me kind of empathizes with that, because it's like, what all of the holders complaining, what have y'all done for me? Like is kind of like what the vibe is. And so what I'm asking is, on Ordinals, does that dynamic just not exist? Like, is there no, what do I get after this sort of feeling? Or are they expecting the exact same thing?
I'll let Easy weigh in too, but from my perspective, so for example, Ordinal Maxi Biz, right? OMB, notable Ordinals collection. The holders of OMB rest on the laurels of the Satoshis that OMB was minted on. That's like a pretty significant part. I would not expect any business to come out of OMB ever. It's basically being treated like the crypto punks of Bitcoin. There will never be any sort of functioning business that's tied to OMB, but the OMB NFTs are on high value Satoshis. And that's a big part of it. For example, Trevor's collection, there's a significant amount of ninjas that are on pizza sats. If you talk to Trevor about it, he's really just kind of communicating that the ninja collection is much bigger than any business that he is building, and quite frankly does not have to do with any business that he's building. It is a standalone digital artifact collection. I think that you'd think it's interesting the way that the Bitcoiners think about it, Nick. They definitely value their rare sats. They definitely think about it that way. On the front of Kevin Rose, Kevin Rose did earn royalties off Moonbirds for a long time. They went away.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying from their standpoint, the holders have some level of expectation that the project is going to do something, and they get frustrated when it doesn't. So that's, and I agree. I think royalties do contribute to that, and in any regard that you expect, well, the company behind this is going to do something with that money that they're earning. That to me feels like a reasonable expectation. In fact, like I don't think that it's unreasonable for someone that buys something which is generating ongoing revenue for the business, that they're going to go and do something with that money. I feel like that's a fair expectation. But for on the Ordinal side, that doesn't exist. There is no royalty. So I'm just wondering if that, like, there's a lot of incentives there, like you just said with Trevor's NFT project, or with any of the others, that they're saying, hey, this is just going to be iconic, and that's it. Like, and let time progress, and it's more of an art project definitively. And that takes off a lot of pressure off the business itself when dealing with those particular NFTs. And there's no obligation that they have liability, essentially, that's like sitting out there. Whereas with Moonbirds, it's like, what? I'm sure Kevin's feeling like, well, what the fuck you want us to do?
Well, the one thing, well, so a couple things. So first of all, on the Ordinal side, and we got to move on from this, but on the Ordinal side right now, I would go as far to say that there's zero businesses. Taproot Wizards is doing it the right way for sure, but I think that you're going to see a bunch of mints on Ordinals that have no business intention or obligation, and people just buy it because there's a hungry Ordinals audience that wants to participate in NFT trading on Bitcoin, and they're ready for it. And quite frankly, I'd go as far far to say that there isn't enough supply to meet the demand right now. That's going to change, and you're going to see a similar trajectory to Ordinals that you saw in early 2021 Ethereum. I'm also interested to see Gabe Layden roll out the ERC 721C or whatever that the name of his contract is that has royalty enforcement. I think that's going to be very interesting. Last thing is, on the Kevin Rose front, you do have to keep in mind that there was a ton of capital raised from the Moonbirds mint and then a lot of capital raised from investors. And I think that the NFT market did not detect a hungry, hustling, deeply connected with the space mentality from Kevin. Whereas, like, for example, Trevor, who we brought up, is insanely into Ordinals and connected to Ordinals, like eats, sleeps, and breathes Bitcoin and Ordinals, and has for a long time. So like Trevor's audience is going to be like, nah, this guy's the real deal. Whereas, I mean, Kevin's over here literally saying, I'm making a podcast. It's not about crypto. I'm trying to get out of crypto. I mean, look, we don't have to talk about Moonbirds.
Well, it's also, I mean, if you want to talk about it quickly too, the reason the ecosystem's pissed is like you had High Rise, you had Talons, you had all these things that were supposed to be delivered on and talked about and discussed, and now none of it matters. Now it's just like you got the PFP, it's CCO, which no one was expecting, and now it's like, hey, I'm going to take a year hiatus from Twitter and go to Threads and leave me alone.
That's wild. That's the wildest one.
It's even crazier. So if you follow, I forget what the person's name is who has this gold Moonbird. JJ, thank you.
It's just been complaining nonstop.
Yeah, so they're a gold Moonbird, and it's a woman actually who posts constantly about Moonbirds. It's probably my favorite page, like hands down my favorite page. They are an advocate Moonbirds community holder, or as you could say, bag holder. And my favorite part is they just take clips from the Discord. This was my favorite one today, posted at 3:30 in the morning. And it says, KRO usually only shows up when the FUD gets super loud on here. And one of the mods says, yeah, that's not going to be a thing anymore. And then the very next thing is like, so what's the best way to get answers? We've been tagging him. It doesn't work. And the mod responds, assume you may never know and enjoy the folks in the community until formal comms warrants a statement, in my opinion. And then they ask, so they have parliaments, which is like their town halls. And someone said, any scheduled parliaments in the future? Mod responds, no scheduled parliaments. They're just done.
What's the how do you spell that person's account?
_JAYJAY 88.
Oh, Nick, you got to follow.
No,
it's like
do.
One of my favorite follows.
I've seen it, but I also liked how you, instead of hiatus, you called it hiatus.
Hiatus.
It's a dirty South pronunciation of hiatus. Sig, what's going on?
I've been in Florida a little too long.
I also think like there's probably a bit of frustration around this time last year. He was saying 2023 will be the year for that community. And then now at the end of 2023, you're seeing him saying over on Threads that he wants to potentially deactivate his account next year. I don't know if I saw a founder or co-founder behind a project saying they're going to deactivate their Twitter for a year, I'll be feeling pretty like, especially after my bags have gone, substantially down. Like everyone's bags have gone substantially down, but they've also come back up as the market has changed. So to see that, to see someone say that now, as we've just come out of this really horrible like eggplant season and things are just starting to run again, it's pretty disappointing. Yeah, I wouldn't want to see that from a project that I was invested in.
You sold your Moonbird, right?
Oh yeah, I got out at a loss, at a big loss, acid reflux loss. Comes up every time I think about how much money I lost, I'm like, oh, just sends a shiver down my spine. And I'm like, it's okay. I'm in Solana. It's okay. I'll make it back. And I'm like, yeah, no. The difference is I'm not on Twitter just being like vocal about it. So I don't know. I think JJ's account is funny, but I think as well, it's just it's kind of harsh, man. I'm like, ouch, for the team over there.
It's one of the best follows in Web3, in my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, in just a few minutes, we're going to have Mark Yusko of Morgan Creek Capital on the show. We have him in the green room. We have him backstage right now. Mark, if you could just join the Twitter Spaces stage, I DM'd you a link to the show. Twitter was having some malfunctions this morning, and we weren't able to go with the original link, but I sent you the new link. Excited to bring you on the show in just a couple of minutes. Real quick, I have a question for Easy. Easy, we've been talking about DCAing SOL and buying SOL up to $100 nonstop. And now all of a sudden we're creeping up on $100. It's kind of wild how quickly it happened. Does your plan change once SOL breaks 100? You keep buying SOL?
No, well, no. That's the plan has been set. Once it hits 100, the DCA daily stops, and we only buy red days. We buy with
Got it.
more size on red days, but if we dip under 100, back to daily DCAs. If we hold over 100, I'm only buying red days, and that's been the thesis for a little bit of time now. Like I said, if we hit 100 in 5 days, in 5 days, that'll be exactly the target. 365 days of buying SOL every day. December 26th was day 1 that I've been buying Solana every single day. So we're getting close. It'll be a very full moment for me if it happens.
This run up to almost $90. Well, it just blasted through the 80 level, which was exactly what you want to see. I thought yesterday it was pulling back a little bit, but it blasted through that level. I'm assuming at some point it makes a pullback back to 80 or something like that, in like before like some sort of consolidation. Like it's not.
I hope. I want more, but like
I want to add.
Like I hope.
I want to add more. Slow down, Solana. Jeez.
Yeah, but I mean, worst case here, like I'm just gonna rotate those daily buys to AVAX, which is sitting at 45.
That's what I was going to ask. So does it just go to AVAX?
Yeah, I'm just gonna shift it to AVAX and like then just run the same playbook on AVAX up to 100 and then stop, like the exact same playbook. And I'm just not gonna overthink it.
The wildest playbook if you told a traditional investor. Look, speaking of traditional investors and investment badasses, we have the founder, CIO, and managing director of Morgan Creek Capital. Morgan Creek Capital, of course, nearly $2 billion in assets under management. We have Mark Yusko taking a break from CNBC to join us on the morning show. Mark, how's it going?
Hey, doing great, guys. How y'all?
Doing well. Don't worry too much about the Twitter stage. We've been having some issues there, but glad to have you on the show. Mark, out of the assets under management, the $2 billion, is it all in Bitcoin?
No. So about 3/4 of that is legacy business. Morgan Creek Capital Management, which I started about 20 years ago. Hedge funds, private equity, venture capital, some traditional assets. And about $500 million is in investments around the digital asset ecosystem. We formed Morgan Creek Digital back in 2018. We've raised 4 venture capital funds that invest in the equity of businesses in the ecosystem, as well as about 20% of that capital is invested in protocols themselves. So, we have meaningful positions in Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana. You guys talking about Solana. Although, full disclosure, we were early to Solana, not because we're smart, because Kyle gave it to us. But we sold probably 3/4 of it, in the hundreds following the collapse after Breakpoint a couple of years ago, and watched it go all the way down to single digits, and have held the rest. I had an interesting experience. Some of you guys saw it on Twitter that I commented on another show that one of the things that was challenging for me about Solana was that when the network got clogged and congested, transactions got vaporized, and people didn't like that term, and they're like, "We never rolled back the chain." I didn't say you rolled back the chain. I just said transactions never settled. So, guy reached out from the Netherlands. We did a Zoom, and he walked me through a bunch of things. Said, "Oh, look, we fixed this, we fixed that," and I took him on face value. It was funny. That was the day, September 3rd, that we started this run. So I'm taking full credit for the Solana.
So did you guys buy back in or just hold the position?
Well, so we actually we bought a little more. So the way we do it, we raise a fund every 2 years. So we raised in 18 and 20 and 22. We did a first close on our 24 vintage fund here. And so we did do a small purchase, a basket of, we call it the big 2 plus 5. So Bitcoin, Ethereum, and then a basket of 5 other protocols that we like. And again, just wading in. I mean, our expectation is 20 odd % of what we invest on behalf of clients will be in the liquid protocols. And that's partly because for the first time ever, you can own the protocol stack itself, right? I mean, we're using TCP/IP right now, but Tim Berners-Lee couldn't own it. Vint Cerf, who invented it, couldn't own it. We can't own it. And you got to own the apps that sit on top. In the new protocol stack, we'll call it Web3 or spatial. I like spatial web better. You can, and actually 85% of the value that has gone into the ecosystem has gone into the protocols themselves, not the equity of the businesses yet. I think they will emerge, and I'll stop talking here and let you guys ask questions. But what's interesting is we haven't even started the cycle, right? The tech cycle that is blockchain technology and what I call the truth net starts in 2024. So there's been this long cycle of technological innovation from the mainframe in 54 to the microchip in 68 to the personal computer in 82 to the internet in 96 to the mobile net in 2010. So 2024 hadn't even started yet. So we're going to have a unbelievable period over the 4 years from 24 to 28 of innovation, of wealth creation. And just for perspective, Web 1, right, Cisco, Microsoft, et cetera, created $2 trillion of value. It's a big number, right?
Pretty good.
I mean, we throw trillion around and no one shudders anymore because the government uses that number. And a trillion, right, we'd have to sit here together for 31,710 years.
So you're saying
you guys are fun, but that's a long time, 31,710 years, and spend $1 every second. That's 1 trillion. So Web 1 created 2 trillion. Web 2 created 5 trillion, right? Exponential growth. Web 3, spatial web, I think it's 15 trillion. And that's a big, big, big number. So that excitement around essentially displacing the trust industry, right? The trust industry had a good run for 838 years. Banking, brokerage, accounting, auditing. That's
now we're
trust.
trustless. We're trustless now.
Now
Mark.
we're trustless and permissionless, right? I don't need permission to send you value now.
Yep.
Right. The first time I tried to send money to Coinbase, so we were early investors in Coinbase, and first time I tried to send money there, Bank of America said 14 days. I'm like, what do you mean 14 days? They're like, well, it's our money and it's our prerogative. Didn't you read the fine print? I'm like, of course I didn't read the fine print, you idiot. So anyway,
Elizabeth Warren doesn't want it to be trustless, but the
I was about to bring that up, Nick. Go ahead.
The thing I was going to ask. So it sounds like the way you're primarily spawning various venture capital funds, and so you're not doing like trading unless trading in the sense that you may get underlying access to the tokens. When you say access to the protocols, you're really getting access to the tokens within some of the protocols that you're investing in, essentially. Yeah. And so that's what you get access to. You have a term on that fund, 10, 20 years, whatever the number
10 years.
is.
Yep. No, perfect. And you're right. We don't trade. We will, occasionally liquidate. I said we did liquidate some of the Solana because we felt like there were some problems. We've never sold a Bitcoin. I mean, not one. Actually, that's not even 100% true. We have had to trim on occasion to, pay bills or whatever. And there we will look across, the things that we have that are semi-liquid. So, we still own a chunk of the Coinbase stock that we invested in when it was private. We own Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, a little tiny bit of the Graph. We have some hash from the Provenance blockchain. So on occasion, we'll sell what we think has the least upside at the moment. And again, these are small things to pay management fees or make distributions to clients. But it is a 10-year life fund with, call it a couple year extensions. And so we raised fund 1 in 18, fully invested, it's up nicely. It's probably a 6x at this point. We've returned all the capital. So we returned 1.06 of the invested capital so far. And on the end of this cycle, so sometime in 25, we'll probably move to liquidate that fund and return capital so they can use that to fund capital calls for Fund 2 and Fund 3 and Fund 4.
So
Nick?
the other question in terms of, I guess, having these funds is, well, I don't know. I have a number of thoughts. I got distracted on when you were saying the rollout of these individual funds were taking place. Oh, I know what it was. Who are the types of partner LPs who are investing in this? Is this just like high net worth individuals, or are you going to like institutions to raise this capital?
Yeah. So we were super lucky in the sense that, the story goes, and many people have heard this, is, I'm a traditional guy. I'm old. People say, what are you doing looking at crypto and hanging out with the crypto kids? I'm like, look, I got introduced to this space in 2013 by my friend Dan Moorhead. Dan and I had known each other 30 years. And in 2013, he called me up and said, hey, come to San Francisco, I'll buy you dinner. I went out there and he said, look, I'm shutting down my hedge fund and I'm going to spend the rest of my career in Bitcoin and blockchain. I'm like, why would you give back $1 billion charging 2 and 20? He said, well, this is going to be big. It's going to be huge. And look, in 2013, not running drugs on Silk Road, not a cryptography student, didn't really get Bitcoin. But as soon as he started talking about blockchain as infrastructure and as an operating system for the internet of everything, I'm like, yeah, I get that. So focus more on the private markets, the picks and shovels, the infrastructure. Finally kind of did the work on Bitcoin. And at that time, Ethereum didn't exist and Solana didn't exist. And so long story short, met Pomp in 2016, doing some private equity investing. Didn't know him from Adam, just met him. And we got to talking. And really what happened is I heard him on Patrick O'Shaughnessy's podcast. I'm like, it's pretty interesting. All right, I'll follow this guy on Twitter. So I followed him on Twitter. Like, that sounds like something I would say. Wait, that is something I said. So we met for breakfast, turned into lunch, turned into dinner, turned into the next day, we had to be partners. So we went out to raise money and he convinced me, which I'm not quite sure how it happened. He convinced me that we should just start a venture fund. Because I had been an allocator, a registered investment advisor, a fund of funds manager. I never actually pulled the trigger on the individual deals. I made lots of investments in Sequoia and Kleiner and lots of famous venture capital funds, and I co-invested with them in companies like Beyond Meat and other things. But I actually wasn't the investor. And he said, we're going to do this. I said, how are we going to do this? He said, we're just going to do it. Because there was no competition. There was Pantera, there was Blockchain Capital, there was no Andreessen Horowitz Crypto, there was no Paradigm. We were the third ones, and we just got lucky. We met this amazing CIO at Fairfax County. And funny story. So Pomp's doing the pitch. 10 minutes in, she's like,
That's off Pomp's pitch.
Yeah. And I will find a way to get my board to do this. Remember, this is 2018, an institution talking about doing crypto.
Bitcoin's probably $2,000 at this time, right? Something like $2,000.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Yep. Well, no. It was about 3,000. It just fallen from 6 to 3.
Yep.
And Bitcoin. And long story short, he calls me and he's like, we're going to raise $1 billion. This is amazing. It's going to be awesome. Next 35 meetings, over. In fact, he got laughed out of the University of Texas office because they're like, you're an idiot. This is stupid. No, go away. So we didn't raise $1 billion. We raised $40 million. And to answer your question, about 2/3 of the money is from institutions, but about 80% of the investors are individuals. So the individuals are smaller. The institutions write bigger checks, but there are far fewer of them. In the first one, we had 6 out of 30. So I guess about 20% of the investors were institutions. And it's funny, in that first fund, we would call 100 people and 90 would say, don't call me back. You're idiots, not interested. And, and a couple would say, why are you doing this? You had a perfectly good career. Why would you throw it away on this stupid stuff? Okay. So we ended up, and then of the 10 that we talked to, 9 out of 10 said no. So we got 1% of who we talked to, but we made a lot of calls. And we got 30 investors. Fund 2 and 20 went to 70%, said, you're an idiot, don't call us back. Still 9 out of 10 said no. But we ended
this is a halving year. This is a Bitcoin halving year too.
Oh, yeah. And look, it was complicated by the lockdowns and the nonsense around, stupid stuff that governments do to get rich. But it was a really good time. In fact, one of my favorite memories of that time was, right before in late 2019, I was on CNBC and the price was like $3,200.
Yep.
And the host is like, this is going to zero, and why are you playing in this? And I said, look, yesterday we made the Morgan Creek Digital Challenge, and I actually had called the day before Warren Buffett. I actually picked up the phone and called him, and he answered his own phone, which someone told me he would. And I said, you did that Buffett bet with Ted Seides and hedge funds, and you took the S&P. And how about we do the same thing, $1 million charity bet for, I'll take Bitcoin, you take the S&P. So, well, let me think about it. And his people said, no, we're not doing this. So he kind of came back with, I'm 88 years old. I'm like, dude, you're going to be, chasing my butt around the desk when you're 110. But he didn't do it. And so we issued the challenge. No one took it. No one would take it. And now clearly they would have lost because, Bitcoin's up a lot and the S&P's up a decent amount, but not like Bitcoin. So it's been interesting because now in Fund 4, still half the people we call are like, leave us alone. This is not real. This is not, and that's why I say we're so early. And as much fun as y'all are having in the new Solana pump or other people are having in a meme coin, the core technology that is truly transformational is just getting warmed up. And the thing that I don't think people really understand, every stock, every bond, every currency, every commodity, every piece of art, every bottle of fine wine, every private business, every collectible car, everything will ultimately be a token on a ledger, right? A digital property right. All of it. And what people can't comprehend is that's just the change from analog.
Yep.
Right? In the old days, I would meet you under the buttonwood tree in New York, and you would bring a physical piece of paper, a stock certificate, and I'd bring a physical piece of paper, money, and we would exchange. And we had to be physically proximate. We had to exchange. The problem is, as we were walking to the buttonwood tree, if you've seen the movie Gangs in New York, those guys with the big hats would come steal
Daniel Day-Lewis.
Yeah, Daniel Day-Lewis, exactly. And so what they figured out is, well, what if we put the paper in other places? We put the paper money in a bank. We put the paper stock certificates in DTCC in Dallas, and we'll create this exchange, and you can trade alphanumeric codes.
Yeah, and Mark, and sorry to cut you off. I mean, I talk about this on the show all the time. I've, let the audience know about the kind of history of money and the evolution to the digital. So I appreciate you going down that path. I know Signal has a question. I want to hear her question. And then I want to ask you about your perspective of where we're at in this cycle, because we're kind of front running the Bitcoin halving really because of the ETF narrative that's present right now. And I want to know how you see the next year playing out. But first, Signal, what's your question for Mark?
Yeah, I was actually going to talk a bit about the ETF news because it's coming,
Perfect.
from BlackRock. As your clients, their pension funds, their endowments. When you're speaking to the trustees, now that we have a BlackRock narrative, have you seen a change in their curiosity to be invested in these assets? Typically, a pension fund would have like an allocation to private equity of like 5%, and that they're being super conservative. So when we talk about digital assets, now that BlackRock is here, have you seen a change in them wanting to actually put capital into things like Bitcoin?
It's such a great question, and really really insightful question, and the answer is it should be, right? But the reality is, not yet, and I think it's because, look, the fudsters, right? Elizabeth and Gigi and the rest are doing such a good job with the nonsense, right? We're back to talking about, environmental problems, and we're back to talking about money laundering. I mean, come on. If I wanted you to do me a favor, we'd meet for lunch. We'd have a very nice lunch, and I'd have my backpack and I'd leave it on the bench, and I'd walk away, and you're like, "Hey, Mark, your backpack." And I'd just keep walking, and you look inside and it'd be full of cash. And you say, "Oh, Mark needs a favor." Not traceable, right? Bad guys do bad things. Bad gals do bad things. That's how you do it. That's how the bad stuff gets done. That's how terrorism gets financed. That's how bad people do. It ain't fingers on a keyboard. Now, it doesn't mean that there aren't bad people using digital assets. Sure, there are. But if you want to get away with stuff, fingers on a keyboard is far inferior to sacco money. So it's just kind of comical. But I think because of that, and because of the regulatory landscape and the fear, that normal reaction, as you described, which is just exactly right, that, hey, well, BlackRock's here, we need to pay attention. And I think it's just going to be a lag, a delay. And I think there's still some that don't think it's actually going to get approved, that Gary's going to pull a fast one and he's not going to approve it. Look, he tried a bunch of stuff, right?
Yeah.
He filed lawsuits, and he ignored applications and got slapped on the wrist hard. So, I my own personal opinion, and I've been saying this actually for 2 years. I said, look, the Winklevoss twins should have got approved years ago when they put in the first application, because this asset needs that legitimization of institutionalization to get the common person to understand. Not everybody does the work or spends the time. They're busy with their life. And some of the technology is actually complicated. But I knew in my mind that BlackRock was going to be the winner. Why? Because they run that world, right? They're a $10 trillion asset manager, largest in the world. They're connected to everything, along with Blackstone and Carlyle and all of that. And at the end of the day, they weren't going to approve the Winklevoss twins. They weren't going to approve. Look, I have investments in the two people who are ahead of BlackRock. 21 shares, which is Amun and Kathy Wood. So we own a piece of Amun. And Bitwise, both of those are ahead. And I sadly predict they will both get deferred one more time to March. But I do believe that on January 8th, we're going to crown the king on the king's birthday, Elvis's birthday. I think they crown Bitcoin or BlackRock as the winner. And people say, well, why? And how are they going to do that with just one? Like, well, because they're the head of the game, and BlackRock decided that this was lucrative, right? For years, 2017, 18, 19, 20, Larry Fink was out there. This is an index of money laundering.
Yeah, money laundering.
Right? This is he same talking points. And then he comes on TV and says, you should really own some of this to protect yourselves against currency devaluation. I mean, literally, my mind was blown that he said this. I'm like, well, yes, that's truth. And you're speaking truth, and truth is an absolute defense. But the fact that he said that was blew me away. But then he came on and said, people are afraid. And they're seeking safe havens like gold and treasuries and Bitcoin. Like, what? So, and as Bitcoin goes, the rest of that digital asset ecosystem follows. It's like I was a wrestler in high school, and my coach had this great line: where the head goes, the body follows. Yep. You want the person to go a certain way on the mat, just push their head that way, the rest of their body will go. And the head is going to get followed. And look, I'm super bullish about this cycle because you got the normal halving cycle.
Yep.
Which the halving is one of the most ingenious code, I guess one of the most ingenious applications of code. That's the word I'm searching for, that I've really ever seen. Yep. Because if you think about it, what does it do? Well, it ensures movement. Why is that important? Well, movement draws activity, draws interest. If something doesn't move, people don't care. Right. And especially guys, right? We have the hunter-gatherer genetic back to cavemen days. And if it ain't moving, I can't see it. Like my wife says, go get the ketchup. I open the fridge, there's no ketchup. She walks up, grabs the ketchup bottle. If it ain't moving, I can't see it. And like if someone were to walk by, I'd move. That's what we do. We're hunter.
You got to move the ketchup, Mark. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah. The ketchup's got to move, or I can't see it. But the thing is, if you think about why is there a cycle? Greed and fear. So we had greed. So we had greed during the last cycle because you had the money coming in GBTC. So it went from 10 to 60, like almost overnight.
And I want to talk about Barry Silbert, and I want to talk about DCG, but please continue. Yeah.
Yeah. But we went from 10 to 60, but the fair value of the network, Metcalfe's law model, was only 30. So greed took us to 60. So actually all the way to 69 in the second, pump.
Yep.
And, 32, 69. So we had to have a crash. And the crash was precipitated by the approval of the futures ETF, which allows the banks to go naked short. Now, why would they want to go naked short? To push the price down to accumulate at a lower price. Well, why would they want to do that? Well, because they weren't in the game yet. So at some point between 21 and 22, the powers that be said, you know what? It ain't going away. And we need to be there. So we need the price to be lower. We need to have the structure that allows, our clients, the boomers, to enter. Because, there's this digital divide that I find it so interesting, right? Ask anyone over 35, who's your broker? I don't know, UBS, Merrill Lynch. Why? How much gold do you have? I don't know, 3-4%. How much Bitcoin do you have? Oh my God, 0. It's a Ponzi scheme. Haven't you heard that Peter Schiff guy?
I'm 41. Any of that?
So Nick's a young 41. Mark, you've been presenting fantastic insight. I want to be cognizant of your time. So you mentioned where the head goes, the body goes. Our audience is largely interested in the body. We talk about Bitcoin on this show, but the audience is largely interested in everything after Bitcoin. Yeah. At the very top, Ethereum, Solana, AVAX, NFTs, all this different stuff, right? I'd be curious. I'm surprised at how robust this pump has been over the past, call it 3-4 months, ahead of the halving. I did not expect this. When the fake ETF news came out, I forget what, Cointelegraph or whoever it was, that report.
Yep, Cointelegraph.
Whoever reported when that report came out, I was very surprised at the time at the price pump, and I said at that time that the experts, the people like Mike Alfred and Lynn Alden that I'm following, were projecting that a very bullish scenario would be 40K Bitcoin before the end of 2023, and a more conservative scenario is 40K Bitcoin ahead of the halving. Well, the bullish scenario played out. Now the narrative on crypto Twitter, if you want to call it that, seems to be that there will be a sell-off after the ETF approval in early January. You don't think so?
No way. I mean, it's look, anything can happen. Don't get me wrong. I mean, anything can happen. But why? Right? So what's happening now is the normal accretion of price back to fair value.
Yep.
So fair value today. Okay. Tim Peterson has this great Metcalfe's law model. Everyone can see it. And, it's like 51, 52,000 for Bitcoin.
Yep.
And we're in the 40s. So that's still below fair value. Well, we went, look, Hurricane Sam happened and it pushed all the way down to 16.5. It was ugly. People said it was going to zero, not going to zero. And that was ugly. And then we started this amazing accumulation, right? Because what happens when you're that far below fair value, if fair value is 50 and the price is 15, you're going to buy it. And who's going to buy it? People like me, investors. Investors are going to start accumulating. And an accumulation pattern is one where we have higher highs and higher lows. And it's been this beautiful accumulation pattern. Doesn't mean there won't be FUD. Doesn't mean there won't be the Binance attack. Doesn't mean, there'll be things that cause sell-offs. But in each case, there's just this beautiful accumulation. So we're starting to get toward fair value at 50K. Well, then the halving comes. The halving doubles fair value because this is the part of the code that's just amazing. If the price doesn't move, then half the miners go out of business. That can't happen. So the price adjusts upwards, which causes more people to come into the game. Now, in crypto fall, which will start next June. So we're in crypto summer right now. So from last June to this June to next June, that's crypto summer. Then we start crypto fall. Crypto fall is the crazy parabolic leverage, stupidity, dumb, way above fair value. How high we go this time? I don't know. If fair value is 100, sometime mid next year, could we get to 150? In theory, if you look at the last two cycles, we'd get to 250, But the problem is there's not as much leverage this time. So the leverage is what allows you to get way above fair value. Without the leverage, it's harder. But we do have something new, which is the ETF. When the ETF is approved, and again, I called the day, January 8th. When that happens, some number, 30 billion is my estimate in the first short period. That's 0.1%. That's 10 basis points of the 30 trillion that's available. That 30 billion on an asset that trades 8 billion a day will push the price up meaningfully. So this is the buy the rumor, buy the news. Now, people say, but it's already in the price. Nope, it's not in the price. So,
Nope.
Second thing, you could have people who sell the news because they think BlackRock is the one doing the front running and then they're just going to sell to themselves. It's possible. Probably not for a lot, but it's certainly possible for some. But what's most likely is I'm light on that 10 basis points. No one's going to say, just give me 10 basis points. They're going to give me 1%. And that 1% is 300 billion. Now, 300 billion isn't going to go in all at one day. Now, you asked about Barry Silbert. The one thing that I'll caveat is if, and that's capital I, capital F, GBTC doesn't get approved to convert, all that money leaves to go into BlackRock. All of it, every dollar of it, because you're not going to pay 2% fees when you can pay 50 basis points.
You're saying investors that have exposure to GBTC, which has been the institutional grade, direct Bitcoin, asset, all that money is going to go to the BlackRock ETF, and that concerns you?
Well, look, that's 25 billion. So that would sop up that initial wave of 30 billion. And so we wouldn't jump. We'd just be kind of, In that scenario, people would freak out a little bit. And some might sell. And then we could have a little bit of a dip. I don't see it. I do think they'll be vindictive enough not to give Barry his approval. Sadly, I think that's likely. And I don't wish that on Barry. I don't wish that on Michael. I want them to get approved. It's the fair thing to do. It's the right thing to do. But I don't think those people care about fair and right, sadly. So
yeah. Well, there's a lot to unpack there.
That's the only wiggle. But at the end of the day, $300 billion is coming. Some of it's going into Bitcoin. Some of it's going to, find its way down to other stuff. Now, that's great for short-term fun. But at the end of the day, we still need to build. And we still need the tech to work. And we still need all of the integration and the additional use cases for other businesses besides trading, right? Blockchain will do to financial services what the internet did to media and commerce. Full stop.
Yeah.
But blockchain will also revolutionize every other industry, from healthcare to voting to logistics to anything you can imagine. And so that has to keep happening, and it will. I said, we're just starting this path in 2024. And the only piece that I still struggle with it, and I know now y'all never invite me back, is the meme stuff. I just don't get, right? But to me, Tesla stock is a meme, right? The company is they make perfectly good cars, but it's a car company. And everyone's like, no, it's a software company and it's a network company. I'm like,
okay, so a couple things, Mark. First of all, I really appreciate you bringing this up. I'm a huge Tesla guy. I think this is awesome to listen to. Our audience loves meme coins. I know Nick has a question. Then I do want to talk about Elizabeth Warren and her war against self-custody, but go ahead, Nick.
Well, the meme coin thing is just people chasing trends and trying to make as quick of money as possible. And
literal gambling. Gambling.
Yeah, it's a great medium.
Of course, absolutely. It is gambling. And look, when you shut down Vegas and you send people $1,200, they had to find something to do. So they found GameStop, and I get that. And I get it, this is gambling. But at the end of the day, I guess it's better than gambling, because in gambling, the house wins. Here, if you're nimble and you get out before everybody else, you can win. You actually can win, whereas in Vegas, you can't.
Yeah,
right.
So the question I was going to say is, so your background is literally leading these endowment funds and investment groups, investment teams within the universities, which are the institutions that historically, or some of the institutions that historically fund the funds. Basically, they are the LP to a lot of these different places. It's interesting to see someone who's basically comes from that place, the source of capital for most of these funds, transitioning to your. I mean, it's not surprising to see that you would start your own independent business, but the thing that's interesting is your experience there. Are you seeing those institutions display interest in in these digital assets, or are they basically just like, we don't give a shit?
No, look, the leaders are there, right? The Yale, Princeton, Stanford, UNC, Duke, Notre Dame. They've been there for a while. They went with the big dogs. They went with A16Z and Paradigm, which had Sequoia ties. A couple have played around the edges with the tokens themselves, mostly at the very tippy top. The thing about crypto or digital assets, or whatever you want to call it, is I always say it's like Saudi politics. There's the king, the crown prince, and all the other princes that hate each other. So in Saudi, you got the king and the crown prince. That's all that matters. And all the other princes want you to buy their oil, not the other prince's oil. And there are like 8,000 of them, like 8,000. So yeah, same thing here. You got Bitcoin, you got Ethereum, and then you got all these other, trying to take the same amount of dollars from somebody else. But the difference is, unlike Saudi politics and oil, here there can be actual development. And so where the endowments play primarily is in the venture side, where you're trying to back founders to build businesses or start protocols that have something beyond the meme-ness or the utility token. And that, again, that doesn't mean that the other stuff is bad. It's just that's not where they play. Mm-hmm. The pension funds, they're just scared. And very few have done anything. A few have done a little bit. But we talked to one just last week. Giant pension, $200 billion. And we've been talking to them for years. And they were on the verge of investing in 2021. And actually, you know what? Good for them. They pulled back in 2022 with, Luna, and then Three Arrows, and then, Voyager and Celsius
FTX.
and BlockFi and FTX. They're like, we're done. But now, see, this is the part where I get super excited. If you look at history, after economic downturns, which you don't want to call it a recession in 22 and 2, I don't care. There was a recession. It was like 2001 recession, shallow, but it was a recession. Market fell 25%. That's a recession. Two negative quarters. After that happens, you get an unbelievable period for investing in venture capital. So the 23-24 vintage is going to be one of the best vintages in the last 40 years. And the quality of teams that we're meeting with every day is off the charts, right? 650,000 people got displaced by the big tech companies. Not all of them can never work again. Some of them have to do new stuff. We met a team, yesterday, ex-Googler, ex-fintech, and they're building a really interesting platform in digital assets. So that innovation wave is happening. And the other cool thing, and this is what I love, I'm having more fun today than I've ever had in my career. And I love my career. I love working in endowments. I love building an asset management firm. But now, old guy gets to hang out with young, passionate, enthusiastic, intelligent people who are building the future. And that's awesome. And this wave, look, I was in the internet wave. We invested in all the early companies from Yahoo to eBay to Google to everything. That wave of talent was amazing. Consulting, banking, technology, healthcare, huge wave of talent, the Sergeys and the Larrys and all these amazing people. This talent move, way bigger. It's unprecedented, the number and quality of talent that has migrated into this space. And so when people say stupid stuff like it's a fad or it's going to zero, I'm like, name a technology, right, that has gotten critical mass that went back in the bag. Right?
That was,
wait. You just can't do it. And so that's a long answer to your question. The institutions are coming. It will certainly help when BlackRock is deemed, the axe
king.
or the boomer, the boomer rapper, as people like to call it. And yet, look, the one thing that could happen, and I retweeted Max Kaiser on this last night.
And I wanted to bring up that tweet. I was surprised.
I have this uneasy feeling. And look, I actually believe that Ms. Warren is, well, I won't say what I really think, but I do think they're going to try, keyword try, to make self-custody illegal. I think an executive order 6102-esque bill is coming. Now, the fact that she's passed 0 bills in her tenure is extraordinary. And that doesn't mean that some of her language didn't get into other bills, but her ability to actually pass a bill is pretty unprecedented, bad. And so, but she's evil. And I probably shouldn't say that because she's going to come get me, but she is. And why is she evil? She's bought and paid for. And she's bought and paid for by the people who are being disrupted. And therefore, her only incentive is to make them happy. And if that means destroying and collateral damage, destroying things and having collateral damage, she doesn't care. And so when people are afraid, they're very dangerous. And the banks are very afraid. The brokers are very afraid. And that means they're dangerous. And when you throw on top of that, maybe the weakest government we've ever had. I mean, maybe there were some others that were weaker, but this one's pretty bad and can be bought and paid for very easily. And look, in the 90s, AT&T and Verizon tried to kill what you and I are doing right now. Right? We're using voice over internet protocol to talk for free. They wanted to make that a criminal act. And they got a bill passed. And Al Gore killed it, thankfully. So he did save the internet. He didn't invent the internet, but he did save the internet. but they're going to go that way. And I've talked about this, and I'll let you guys go. So 2009, 2015 was the first part of the quote. First, they ignore you. Bunch of nerds and geeks playing through magic internet money, whatever. Then they laugh at you. 16 to 21. Nerds, geeks, you guys are crazy. I mean, what the hell? Blockchain, Bitcoin, Solana, whatever. Then they fight you. 2022, and I think sadly to 2027, they're going to fight. And they're well-funded. They're politically connected. And they're not dumb. Like someone said, Jamie Dimon's so dumb. I'm like, oh my God. You don't have to like him, but he's not dumb, right? And he's intentional about, telling you that this is for money laundering, that he'd make it illegal. Well, why does he say that? Well, because he's a monopolist. And monopolists don't like competition. JP Morgan had the famous line in 1907. The Knickerbocker Trust was taking assets away from JP Morgan. And he famously quipped, I like a little competition. And magically, there was a rumor spread that Knickerbocker Trust didn't have all the money they said they did. And you've seen the picture in Wikipedia of the bank run, the women in the top, or the guys in the top hats, the women in dresses and umbrellas running to the bank. And that was fomented by him and the Rothschilds, and they basically, and then he got a bill passed, the Trust Act of 1907, that let him buy all those assets and create the dominant superpower bank that still exists today. And so are they going to do more of that over the next couple of years? Yep. But the good news, if you're here, we've already won. This tech is unassailable. It will dominate the future. And it doesn't mean every project will be a winner, but the tech and the movement and the opportunity set is indomitable. So.
Your comment on the talent, I was just going to say, is honestly one of the main reasons that I saw a repeat pattern. Actually, in 2021, a lot of the previous Facebook people that I had known had all shifted into this space. And I'm like, look, before, a lot of the people that I'd seen that were in this space were really driven by the money, had no technical expertise whatsoever. And during the ICO days, basically during that time, there was it was more of like the 90s IPOs sort of stuff where like business people wrote business plans and were like, we're launching a internet company, but like there wasn't as much like solid foundation there. And for some people there were like Amazon, but in this case, I was like, wow, I'm seeing a lot of familiar faces that are showing up here. They're not out to just scam people and just take advantage of everybody. So that I do love the talent transition hypothesis there is a really solid one.
Hey guys, I just realized I just ran over, so I got to jump. But totally. Hey, thanks for having me. Hopefully the tech worked well enough. Enjoyed hanging out with you all. We'll do it again sometime. And thanks for listening to me rant on all the topics that I love to rant on.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for joining, Mark. Ladies and gentlemen, follow Mark on X platform, on Twitter, at Mark Yusko, at MarkYusko. We hope to have Mark again on in the future. Thank you so much, Mark. This was a real pleasure.
Thanks, y'all. Awesome. Happy holidays. Everybody have a Merry Christmas, Good New Year, or whatever you do celebrate. And enjoy your time. And we'll see you in the beginning of the great movement in 2024.
Sounds great, Mark. Thank you so much. See you, Mark.
All right,
thank
you.
Well. Yep. Wow. Well, first of all, we could have done another hour there easily. I wanted to dig into that because the Elizabeth Warren self-custody thing is actually kind of wild. I have a friend that kind of like gets nervous about things easily, and he's been obsessed with this Elizabeth Warren thing. He is so scared of Elizabeth Warren. He basically views Elizabeth Warren as like Mike Tyson coming to like try to knock him out or something. But the self-custody part is pretty scary because I feel like the government would love to get a banned self-custody law across the line. line, and I just want to understand what that means. If literally they come to me and they're like, you have $1 million of crypto stuff that you withdrew from exchanges, where is it? Like, what am I going to say? Like, literally, what am I going to say? You know?
Well, you're going to say it's you're concerned, like, what am I going to say because I don't want them to take it from me?
Yes.
But couldn't you also just put it back on the exchange?
I'll just
You
tell them
can.
openly I bought shit coins and lost it all.
Well, the joke is you lost it in a boating accident. Yeah, I mean, look, there was a lot. I didn't get a chance to ask Mark about AVAX. I wanted to see what he thought about AVAX. He also is literally on Twitter rocking an on-chain monkey profile picture. So we didn't even get to NFTs. I want to ask him, you have an on-chain monkey profile picture. Like, let's talk about NFTs, dude. Like, I really wanted to talk about that. Nick, and then Bunny's got his hand raised. Bunny, is something to contribute here?
I had a question for Mark. Mark, what percentage of your assets are Bored Apes? But he left, so.
We'll DM him DM him the question. Nick,
That's an important one to answer definitively. It's absolutely critical,
especially considering Beanie just told Bunny to floor his ape. So absolutely critical that we figure out what Mark's allocation is to the BAYC ecosystem.
Is that even Beanie though? That's what everyone's asking. You know, like
no, it's not.
It's not. Did you see how he responded to our commentary yesterday with the tweet being?
What did he say? I heard what you guys said. I didn't hear what he said.
He just said, "I'm getting a lot of FUD for shilling," basically, because I said I definitely said he's become a lot more shilling. But the thing with this, your point about the custody, it is actually a really legit point, which is like, is everyone else going to enforce it? The reality is, I feel like with the money system, the banks do have, it's what enables them to, it's involved with wars is one thing, but it's also the ability for them to prevent, countries and from transmitting money essentially because they all have associations with one another. Wouldn't, if this is really the intention, wouldn't that just result in them forcing other countries to have to follow suit with this sort of like? I feel like it would need to be a more global approach to
I feel like the Bitcoin maxis, some of them have been ahead of the curve on this question, and like they've already left the US, they've already given up their passports. I'd be looking at like which countries have not extradited people. Like there are people out there have committed very verifiable crimes, and some countries will not extradite them back to their home country. So I'd be looking at how to get their passports. So you want to be looking at Hong Kong, you want to be looking at Singapore, but it's a legitimate question. I don't think that is an event that could not happen. And I think it's interesting to see right now which countries have been making it more difficult to get your money from a bank into the exchanges. In the UK, you're already seeing that. It's becoming more and more difficult to move your money into exchanges, while other countries have been much more flexible. Pio, I don't know if you have an Italian passport, but might be time to make that an application right now.
I can't get an Italian passport because of a bullshit loophole, which I don't even want to talk about because it's so stupid. Shout out the Italian.
I want to know what it is.
It's that I mean, I feel like I don't know if this would make my mom uncomfortable that I'm talking about this, but basically because my mom became an American citizen, I'm being punished for it. Because if she didn't become an American citizen, they'd be like, "Oh, absolutely, let's rock."
That's how I got mine. My mom's not a U.S. citizen, so I have a British passport.
Meanwhile, my buddy's great grandfather immigrated to the United States and never became a United States citizen. So Italy's like, "Oh, right this way, Tony," who doesn't know anything about Italy, and his great grandfather immigrated like 100 years ago. Tony, you can go be an American citizen. What the hell? Like, what the hell is that?
You could. I feel like couldn't she go back theoretically and like regain citizenship of did she forfeit her Italian?
Yes, that's what happened because it was like whatever at the time you couldn't have both, and now you can have both, but it's years later. She could go back, but as you can imagine, the Italian government doesn't exactly operate lickety split when it comes to stuff like that. So I don't know if I want to have my mom take on the multi-year burden. Maybe if I could hire like a legal team to just run this whole bullshit for like 15 grand, we can talk about it. But
you do have to go there for a long time. My dad and it's also just part of the Euro or the EU at this point. So my dad also went through the same process. He's now an EU citizen in Belgium. But I think the bottom line is you have there is a whole process there. And I think just squatting for a period of time somehow I think is part of the key factor in becoming a citizen, is just literally sitting there for a couple of years is part of the path.
Absolutely. I also don't see Italy being like, hey, Pio, but like Italy, all the films are you left the family. I mean, and now she's trying to come back.
In Italy, they're just playing cards and drinking olive oil. Anyway, real quick,
mafia in Italy proper. The Sicilians still did you not watch The Godfather? I mean, come on, dude.
Look, Napoli too, man. It's still around. Look, real quick, 4 minutes. Nick's got an important call at 10:30. We got to cut this in 4 minutes. I love, real quick, one comment. I love how we were debriefing on what we were talking about with Mark, unpacking more stuff, and then Dead Fellas Gamer NFT DGen just plops in to the chat and goes, "Anybody know what the fuck's going on with these SAGA phones? They mentioned being oversold on the show yesterday, but the SAGA Discord is a mess." It's like, dude, we just broke down the whole global.
They're sending cancellations of it right now too.
Okay, but I just love how NFT DJs listen to Mark for an hour and there's like, yo, what's up with this SAGA phone, dog? I'm trying to make $400. Anyway, Nick, go ahead.
I'm legitimately pissed because Signal and I are in the same boat. And then yesterday we apparently there was an NFT airdrop that you could have sold for 15 fucking SOL. Did you?
I gotta correct that. That was not for SAGA holders only. Just for transparency, it was through this place called Third Web or Third World, which is a metaverse to mint that. It's a 3D artist who made it and dropped 1,000 or 100 pieces, some small supply. It wasn't only for SAGA holders, but the airdrop that went out 2 days ago, Access Protocol, just did a 3x. So now you've gotten $1,400 or $1,500 if you've just been sitting on this beautiful piece of award-winning hardware.
It's been
so I love it. So. Real quick, let's talk about the SAGA phone tomorrow. The SAGA phone is not going anywhere. I want to, real quick, 2 minutes, ride the energy of Mark being here. Clemente, I gave you 3 tweets that I had prepared before the show. Mark proactively brought one of them up and said that he retweeted it. So is this, okay, the Max Kaiser tweet, this is wild. So Max Kaiser's out of his mind, ladies and gentlemen, but he is a grizzly vet of finance, literally 40 years deep. There's videos of him in the late 80s cooking. Extremely successful guy.
Huge. Is he cooking? Is he cooking drugs?
No, Nick, please, just 2 minutes. And Max Kaiser, I've never seen a tweet like this from Max Kaiser. This is I'm actually worried about the banning of self-custody in the United States. You guys should move to El Salvador. All of his tweets are like, you guys should move to El Salvador. But the fact that he actually, because I feel like they could get a ban on self-custody actually across the line. And then we all have our track records on Coinbase and on, whatever platform that we use. So that's really interesting. And then Clemente, can you pull up Pomp's tweet? And I wanted to talk about this with Mark because Mark was partners with Pomp. Pomp had a tweet that's like a sort of sober take on the Bitcoin ETF. But instead of I don't know, it's basically the take is Bitcoin won't 10x from here this cycle. And I'm like, okay, so it won't go to $500,000. I don't think that many people really thought it was going to go to okay, Pomp, thanks for the sober take, dude. I just thought it was kind of an interesting tweet to put out there. Real quick, while Clemente pulls those up, ladies and gentlemen, and before we have our final discussion, want to give a quick shout out to Unsellable NFTs. Unsellable is the platform that helps you with your tax loss harvesting for NFTs that have no liquidity that you can't sell. And I know if you're listening to this show, you have at least one NFT that you can't sell that has no liquidity. So use Unsellable. I'm going to be using Unsellable. I didn't know about it last year. Otherwise, I would have damn sure used it last year. Clemente used it last year. Why didn't you tell me about it? Or Clemente didn't work here yet. But basically, if you have these bullshit rug pull NFTs that are worth nothing, Unsellable will basically give you a very solid user interface to have an automated tax loss harvesting approach to getting rid of that NFT. So that's kind of the long and short of Unsellable. Go to unselablenfts.com. Unselablenfts.com. You see the tweets pinned. You see, or the nifty.com/unsellable, excuse me. The nifty.com/unsellable. THENIFTY.com/unsellable. And take the right approach to taxes in an automated way with an actual good crypto product that everybody needs to use. Mike Alfred got a tweet right here where Mike Alfred's just kind of a giga bull. looks like Nick dipped. We're going to wrap in a second, but Mike Alfred shares the same perspective as Mark, but I wanted to ask Mark what this Elizabeth Warren bill could potentially do to the price of Bitcoin and crypto in 2024. Man, I wish we had another hour with Mark. Signal it. Well, Easy, what did you make of the conversation? Because you were quiet the whole time, as you usually are with our special guests. I don't know why, but I'd love to know what.
I don't want to interrupt. Like he was ripping for a while, and it's just good to hear. So it's like when someone's on a tear like that, just let them brain dump. And that's it. Like, I'd rather just listen and pick up the bits and pieces he's talking about. The most interesting thing to me about it is obviously the Warren situation, which I was like, I really wanted him to say more, but you could tell he bit his tongue. Like I was waiting for it.
We still called her straight up evil and said that she was bought and paid for easily. So I wonder what biting his tongue means.
But none of that's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, is he incorrect on any of it? I mean, you're 0-436 on bills attempted to be passed. Like, that is the most impressive statistic I've ever heard. Ever. Like, you have the complete
BlackRock
ETF polar opposite. Yeah. Like, literally, you have like that is the two sides of the pendulum is BlackRock and Elizabeth Warren trying to pass bills. It's like BlackRock ETF, Warren bills. The thing that caught me totally like interested in it was his conviction on the lack of a sell-off on ETF approval. Like that was the one where I was like, okay, because we have a different thesis there. And I look at the gold chart a lot, and gold actually traded down for 4 months following the ETF approval before it just absolutely sent, like straight up only mode. And that's why I still compare those two. I don't think it's going to be like this multi-year sell-off post-ETF, but my money is still on the fact that it's a short-term sell the news event, and that's the entry that you need to be deploying capital into. And that's where my thesis is. And I think he did a line on part of that where he was like, the ETF's going to inject a ton of liquidity, but I think that's going to be a buying opportunity that you're not going to get again.
Yeah, I still disagree with you, Easy, on that this is going to be a sell the event news. I'm to see that I'm on the same page as Mark, I'm just like, wow, should have been a fund manager in another life. No, but kidding. No.
The other thing that really surprised me was that they raise a fund every 2 years. That was, and I wish I started to ask, like, peppering some questions into that, because I'm curious what like the return is. Is it additional equity into an existing fund? Is it a brand new fund? Is it brand new teams? But like, that's also not really a conversation for this show, which is why I kind of bit my tongue. Because for me, I'm like, that's the information I'm really curious about when it comes from like TradFi and like what's happening. But I don't want to pepper the TradFi questions when he's riffing for so long on such quality stuff.
I think it's also really interesting to hear his opinion on where fair value lies for Bitcoin and what potentially we could see as we go from crypto summer into crypto fall, because I think a lot of people have been projecting what could happen to Bitcoin for Q1, but actually his blow off top, he was actually talking about September next year, which is in line with what you've been saying, Easy, about the upcoming election and where you think we could see, well, at least on the Solana side, where we could see a peak, but he's also aligning that with the Bitcoin side. So I don't know, going at like reviewing what he has said in the last sort of 30 minutes, 45 minutes has sort of made me reevaluate where I could see the all-time high for Bitcoin, because I wasn't really going into fall next year, which would be June. Sorry, he's talking about June. So the timeline is different. Crypto summer now, and then fall starting in June is where we can see the all-time highs.
So, okay, so a couple things. First of all, Clemente put his camera on, so I put him on the screen because he's just lounging in a tank top in Chile, and I just wanted to show everybody his shoulders that, quite frankly, need a little work. Second, Signal, I appreciate what you're talking about. Couple things. Number one, breaking news. For all the MMA fans out there, Platinum Mike Perry just retweeted a clip from the Nifty on Twitter. So the one and only Platinum Mike Perry of UFC fame and now bare knuckle boxing has retweeted a tweet from our show. I just think that's fun. It's not a big deal. Secondly, while I was using the restroom, I was thinking about other things that we didn't get a chance to talk to Mark about. Dude, I wanted to talk to Mark about Coinbase stock, which it sounds like he was a, early investor in. I wanted to talk about MicroStrategy stock. I wanted to talk about Coinbase versus MicroStrategy versus the ETF itself. What happens to the prices of those two things when the ETF comes out? I wanted to talk about various mining stocks. I wanted to talk about the price of mining stocks before and after the halving. And lastly, I wanted to talk about Robinhood. So I've been calling Robinhood on this show for over a week. Kicks bought in after I first brought it up. I have like $500 of this thing. I have nothing exposed to it because I keep buying Solana and AVAX, but I'm watching this Robinhood stock go up. And I'm like, this thing, its all-time high was over $80. It's trading at $13 right now. It was trading at $10 when I first brought it up on the show. There's like this part of me that's like, well, if this thing goes to all-time high, then that's actually maybe a better investment than like AVAX or something, but I can't not buy the crypto stuff. The other thing is that a bank actually recognizes Robinhood stock as an asset if I want to like buy a house or something. And I wanted to get his take on Robinhood stock. The other thing is if the market's going to price Robinhood like Coinbase and MicroStrategy because it's the top 10 Bitcoin custodian in the United States, and it's an actual crypto platform now where you can withdraw your crypto. I ran a test yesterday. Coinbase is still cheaper to buy crypto with advanced trader, ladies and gentlemen. So don't buy it on Robinhood, buy it on Coinbase. But there's a lot that I wanted to chat about. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, that was a moment to ask a chief investment officer of one of the best funds, like, what do you think of my picks? Look, like to be honest, Pio, I think you've had some really good picks this last quarter, and I think your investment thesis on Coinbase, the mining stocks, what's it called?
I've been running Hot Signal.
MicroStrategy, and now like Robinhood. I think all of those are not out to lunch. And if you put $500 on Robinhood, like going into next year, I think that you'll see some appreciation. Will it outperform AVAX? I don't know, but you could definitely still make money on it.
So dare I say, I'm not even trying to pat myself on the back. If Nick was here, he would just constantly cut me off and wouldn't even let me get this out. I did have a moment the other day where I was like, yo, you're running pretty hot, bro. First Bitcoin, and Bitcoin appreciated more than Ethereum. Then I bought a bunch of Ethereum. The Ethereum didn't appreciate, but I turned all the Ethereum to pudgies with pudgies at 7 ETH. So I got 7 pudgies and 11 little pudgies. So that was really good. And I'm hoping that that continues to be good. I bought the Mad Lad one day after Nick did, because I was like, Nick's always right when he buys shit like this at like 80, 85 Solana. Those are like 200 Solana. I bought the Clanosaur, which Nick didn't even do with the Mad Lad, at 30. Those are like, they were 69. I don't know what they are now. I bought Solana. My average buy price is $32 on over 1,000 Solana, which I'm pretty pumped about. And the AVAX, I just looked, I got like 15 grand of AVAX, which is more than I thought I did. Easy was telling me to buy it. I'm not even going to lie. For a long time, I was buying AVAX just because Easy told me to. And I felt weird about it because I didn't know anything about it. But then MicroStrategy, well, Coinbase, I was buying when it went down in June because of the SEC letter. Went down to $60. I've also been plowing my mom's money into MicroStrategy and Coinbase, and that's been going quite well. She's been buying since $96 Coinbase. It's $166 last time I checked. So anyway, Clemente's writing in the chat, disastrous call on Supdux for the winner of the month. Yeah, but I didn't buy it. I just said it on the show, so I didn't buy it. I don't care. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. Check out Unsellable NFTs because you actually need that product. You actually need the product, ladies and gentlemen, because, anyway, yeah, you need the product because you probably have an unsellable NFT in your wallet and you should tax loss harvest that because it's just the right thing to do for your financial benefit. Go ahead and go to thenifty.com/unsellable, THENIFTY.com/unsellable for access to unsellable NFTs. You've seen us talking about it. It's good for your taxes. It's an automated way for you to fix some mistakes that you made and benefit from them. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we do this show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time. Clemente is going to be hosting it tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. Eastern. He's been doing a fantastic job. If you have feedback for him, write it in the comments. He reads the comments. I've been thinking he's doing a good job, and I've been giving him feedback myself. Should be a good lineup tomorrow, but we do the show Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern time, and we have been for 2+ years at this point, and we're not going anywhere. Go buy a BoDoggo if you haven't already. Go to Magic Eden, go to Soul Sniper, and buy a BoDoggo. Come on now. Buy a BoDoggo, ladies and gentlemen. We will be back